Nina, welcome back.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
It's
Oh,
okay.
now we have lots of love. Thank you very. So I said before, we've got the most amazing speaker, and I just do not want you to miss any of this. So I am now going to hand straight over to Nina and say, Nina, this is your Wintrade Global Talk returned.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. For those of you who don't know me, I am Nina Olk. I'm a TEDx speaker, author, award-winning, actually, award-winning will come, but I'm a best-selling author. I am a really proud mummy, and I do a lot of things. One of them being that I'm an activist speaking out against honor killings and human trafficking, because those two things mean a lot to me. And as I start to explain who I am and why I'm here, it'll make a lot of sense. I'm really thankful for all of you being here today, because as I said earlier, I do know that you've taken time out of your busy days, and I do appreciate you, and I do appreciate the time that you're giving me, and that you're here with me to listen to what I've got to tell you. I was explaining that I'm born and raised in the United Kingdom, that my parents are originally from North India. I was explaining that honor killings are something that happen in the Middle East, parts of Africa and Asia. I wanted to take you back to the beginning, which is when I was born. And I was explaining that when I was born, my parents were very unhappy because I was a girl. I was the first girl in the family, in the extended family, which meant that they labelled me with the name witch, because they felt I had created some sort of witchcraft, because I'd changed the dynamics of the boys being born into the families. My parents being Asian means that girls are not really celebrated. When a boy is born in our culture, they give out sweets and people come to visit and there's a party. But unfortunately, when I was born, my auntie told me that nobody was allowed to pick me up. I was left in my pram for days without being fed and changed. It was almost as though my mother really detested the fact that she'd had a girl. And I know that my father made it very clear that it was not something he wanted. So that brings me to where I was living and how I was living. I have explained, but for those of you that missed it, I was asking you to just go back to your own childhood when you were 6 years old. If you could remember something from it, just something that made you happy. Maybe it was a toy, maybe it was a visit, maybe your parents had taken you on holiday. I was just wanting you to have a couple of seconds just to hold that imagery in your minds, just so that you can compare a little bit about how a lot of girls are being raised as opposed to the way you were possibly raised. So if you could just try to recreate an image in your minds, that would be fantastic. So for me, being brought up a girl in my culture meant that I wasn't celebrated, I wasn't loved, I wasn't wanted. There were a lot of rules. The rules were mainly that I don't look up, I don't talk, I stay silent, and even walking in the house, I must move without making too much noise. I was the brunt of everyone's anger, which I think is a very normal thing. I was blamed for things that were out of my control, but I thought maybe I had caused them because I was this witch, and I believed that maybe I was this witch. So childhood was quite distressing, physically abused, mentally abused. And as I was 6 years old, my job literally was to stay in my room, as I explained. My room was a nice big room, but it had in it just a bed without bedding. It had lots of school books because I was attending school, I was allowed, and I would take handfuls of books home so that I could read a book with another book looking and pretend the book was my friend. And I made towers with the books, but I actually taught myself to read and write, and I would often write at the bottom of a book my name, saying that one day I would write my own book, which I did. But books actually kept me sane, taught me a lot. I read the Bible. I read lots of different religious books because I was looking for answers. Later on in life, I realised those answers were always within me, not externally, but we'll get to that. So on a day-to-day basis, my life consisted of that I would wake up very early. I was in charge of all of the cooking and cleaning in the house. I was a modern day servant as it's described. I had no interaction with my family at all. The two words that were always would always come from any member of the family went my name or which come, and I would go and I would work out really if it was food they wanted or something had spilled and I needed to clean it up, because I used to sit in my bedroom with my ear literally glued to the door, listening to my brothers laughing and watching television, and I would start to giggle myself quietly so they didn't hear me, pretending I was joining in their games or sitting with them on the sofa watching TV. I had a very vivid imagination. As time went on, I was explaining to you that what do you remember from your 6-year-old self? What toy or game do you remember? Because one day I woke up and I was super excited because I'd come down the stairs to cook, and there I found a crate. It was a big plastic crate that you put bottles in, but it was empty, and I was able to turn it over and stand up on it so that I could start cooking, and it was easier to reach the gas cooker, and the sink I could reach all of the cupboards. Life wasn't as much of a struggle, and that was one of my happiest memories from childhood. My mother really didn't have much to do with me, and she didn't really have much to do with cooking. I kind of learnt as I went along. And then my father, as I'd got to this point, I was talking about school, that I was allowed to go to school, but I lived in a very white predominant area. So I was picked upon daily, spat upon, my hair was pulled, I was kicked. Every lunchtime or playtime, if anybody was being beaten, it was me. The library was my safe place. I would sit and read books. But my friend who walked to school with me and back didn't always want to stay in the library. She wanted to play in the playground and with skipping ropes, but I was too afraid. Fear, I think, was instilled from childhood from my parents, and fear was the only emotion I ever knew. I said earlier that as a girl in this culture, you don't know about love. You don't really know about anything other than fear. You don't have any understanding. It's what we've been taught. It's how we abide. And that fear stops you from even dreaming a life beyond where you are. I used to pretend I was Rapunzel and that I would let my hair down one day and somebody would come and save me, but I soon stopped thinking those things. And school for me was a bit of a mixed feeling about school, because I love to learn. I still love to learn, and I liked the engagement with other people because they would actually talk to me, whether it was nice or not. They still spoke to me. I was seen by them. I didn't have that at home. So it was a very mixed emotion. But my friend, bless her, would teach me all of the songs that were on top of the Pops on a Thursday, which is a program that used to come on in the UK. It was a program that showed you all the new music, and she would sing to me Michael Jackson songs and teach me the dances. And I only knew music because of her, but I liked the feeling of dancing and moving. And it used to actually really elevate my own mood and my own feeling about myself. Made me feel good. And then I started growing up, as we all do, and carried on through life, not thinking too much about anything. But I was starting to see a little bit of difference because I had people around me. I was starting to notice their parents would pick them up sometimes, or sports day, a parent would come. Often my friend who did walk with me, her mother would say, Nina, I bought you a new t-shirt, but I was too scared to wear it. So I would hide it in my bag and wear it on the way to school and then hide it in my bag again. But my parents didn't allow me to wash. So I was always that dirty child at school, the one that smelt a bit and people wanted to stay away from. So I didn't really help my own situation with regards to being bullied, because I was an easy target for everybody. Home life was very difficult. And as I grew up, I got to the age of 40, and this is where I was earlier. I was explaining that my father would often go to the pub, which is somewhere to go and drink in the UK, it was very common that they would go to the pubs and bring back with them friends that were also drunk that wanted something to eat. And that was my job. One night, my mother woke me up. My mother had a very unusual way of waking me up. She used a pair of scissors and she would prod me with them. As I said, I had no bed sheets, but by this time we had a puppy, and the puppy used to sleep with me sometimes. And she kept me warm, if I'm being honest, because one of the horriblest things about my childhood was being so cold all the time. But she did wake me up and ask me to go and cook for my father and his friends. And when I went down the stairs, I had, as I described earlier, a very horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. And I was saying that our intuition always tells us to be careful when things are not how they should be. I think on this occasion, my father and his friends were more drunk than usual. I'd seen his friends growing up. They knew me. They'd seen me from a very young age. And on this occasion, when I went to clear the dishes, my father grabbed my wrist and they individually took turns in raping me. I kept my eyes, as I described, wide shut. But when you are stuck in a room all day long and you don't have the visibility that other people do, your other senses kick in. And my hearing was so acute that I could tell which person was doing what. And I knew that the first person to rape me was my father. I was left in a very bad state because more than a rape, it was an attack, a very vicious attack. And I remember waking up literally I was on the floor and there was just a pool of blood and my clothes had been ripped. Some clothes were covered in all sorts of things, food, blood, everything. And I stroked my hair, which was matted to my skin. It was all bloody and dry. And I whispered that I would be okay, that it's okay, Nina, you'll be fine. And the first thing I thought about was the mess and how I would be in trouble if I didn't clean this mess. So I started to clean it, and my mother put her head through the door and just walked out. And I think I was there for probably nearly a whole day, just trying to get enough energy to stand up and clean up. And when I did, I went to my room and I felt very hurt and in pain, but I knew things had changed in my life. I knew things weren't right. This life that I was living wasn't right. Everything was wrong. Unfortunately, I got pregnant with, I don't know whose baby. I had to tell my parents because I'd started my periods by this time. So I had to tell my mum that something was wrong. I didn't really understand what was going on because I was so naive to things, and children nowadays know everything. I didn't know anything. I was extremely naive. My parents took me to a clinic at the age of 14, just about to turn 15, and they organised an abortion. And all I remember about that experience was that it was the first time somebody was really kind to me, because I was sitting outside where they get you to sit outside afterwards, and the lady handed me a cup of tea. And I thought, oh, I should be doing that for you. And she actually stroked my hair. And I just remember that. That's all I remember. I remember that she was really kind. The pain, the frustration of not knowing what's happening all disappeared because she had given me this act of kindness. When I did get home, mentally I started to struggle with nightmares and what had happened. I denied a lot of it in my head that it was true. My father told me that I spoiled myself and that I should be grateful to him because he had traded me to one of the men that had raped me. He said that I would marry him. Not him, sorry, I would marry his son, but I would be there for his reasons, for his sexual reasons, and I would not be having anything to do with the man's son because he already had a girlfriend, and it would help him to retain this image in our culture that he was getting married, and allowing him to have his extramarital affair that he was already seeing somebody, but she wasn't from the same culture. So from that point of view, when I did get married, I walked in at the age of just turning 17. So I was a child bride. I was stripped of all of my clothes and given almost like a old t-shirted thing, and my job was to cook and clean and to allow my then father-in-law to allow him to rape me whenever he wanted. I fought back because it felt so wrong. I managed to stop him many a times. Sometimes I wasn't as strong enough to. And then they made a huge mistake when I got to 19. The family told me to go and find a job because they wanted some extra income. So at the age of 19, I landed myself an amazing job, but that opened up doors again to people that were living different kind of life. And I would turn up with cuts on my wrists and my ankles because my father-in-law had this thing that he would tie me with a coat hanger. He would untangle a coat hanger, wrap it around my hands or my ankles to stop me moving. And often he would just leave me there and go out and come back because he felt I may escape. But people were saying that this isn't right. What's going on is not right. This should not be happening to you. I had no interaction with my parents because once you are married in my culture, they have nothing to do with you. You're no longer their problem. So I had no one to really turn to apart from the few people that were kind to me at work. And one day somebody said to me, Nina, you don't deserve this. Go back to your parents. They will love you. They're your parents. You know, explain to them what's happening. The physical abuse was very obvious from my face. And often, you know, I would walk in and I'd be limping because of the type of treatment that he would stamp. He would do all sorts of things that were quite inhumane. And when I got to work that day, I decided I wasn't going back ever again. So I escaped to my parents. And when I got to my parents, the first thing my dad said to me was, how will I show my face in the community that you have turned up here, that you have left the arranged marriage? How will I be able to ever go? We'll have to move because of this. We will have to hide our faces. And you've brought so much shame. Why couldn't you stay there and allow him to do what he wanted to do? He won't take you back now. The first thing my father did was get on the phone to the family that I was married into, and they said they wanted nothing to do with me. Secretly, I was pleased because as I was married and not producing a child, there were brides that had been married around the corner that I could hear screaming because they had been set alight, because the families they were married into were burning them. They were pouring petrol over them, setting them alight. And the police knew, but the police didn't really want to get involved because it was quite a difficult case for them. They were told that the women had committed suicide themselves, and they accepted that and would leave it. But it was happening more and more and more because the people were not being held accountable. And I knew it would be me soon. I knew it would be my turn. I didn't want that. Something in me wanted to live. After my father was told that they wouldn't take me back, the beating started, and I had barely, standing not 2 minutes from coming in through the door, I was pulled into the same room that I was raped in. And my elder brother, he's 6 foot tall. I'm about 5'5". My father's an ex-wrestler. He's huge. And they started to hit me. But when I say hit me, I'm being probably less descriptive than I should be. The beating carried on for what seemed a lifetime. I ended up having a broken jaw, a broken arm. There was no part of my skin that wasn't cut or bloody. And then when I did fall down, they stamped upon me. They stamped upon me and broke my hip. And the idea was to kill me because I'd brought so much shame to my family. But all I wanted was to be loved. I just wanted them to keep me safe. I had nowhere else to go. Excuse me. After I passed out, I woke up and I couldn't move. And I have two brothers. One of them wasn't involved in the beating, but he was watching. And he told my father that you can't kill her here. Take her to India and kill her there. My father said that he would do that. And I couldn't move. I was in a lot of pain. And I was just lying in the place that they'd left me. And then 2 days later, my mum had a friend. We always called her auntie, but she wasn't a real aunt. I think we all have those. And she whispered that I would be killed and I needed to go. I needed to go either at the airport and ask security for help, but I needed to do something. And something in me, a couple of hours later, managed to tell myself to get up, but I couldn't stand. I was in a lot of pain. I literally crawled on my fours and got to a park literally just opposite the road from where my parents live. And I hid in a bush hoping they wouldn't see me, and I lay there and I was watching my father driving back and forth. I knew he'd be angry and I was very scared, but I didn't know what to do. But one of the people at work had said, if anything happens, come to my house. He lived with a girlfriend. They both were very friendly. And I had his address, so I thought, well, I'll go there. But I had no money. So when daylight broke, I managed to get to a taxi, and they were quite shocked at the sight of me. They said I should go to a hospital. I said, no, please take me to this address. They will pay you. When I got there, he wasn't there. There was nobody there. A lady that had a newsagent was really kind and saw the state of me and paid the taxi driver. And I ended up at the police station. I didn't press charges. The police were quite shocked at the state of me and put me into hospital care. And then I ended up in a women's refuge, but I couldn't hack the women's refuge because everybody was fighting their own battles, and there was drug and drink abuse, and it was all very strange to me. I'd lived in a life in a bubble that I didn't know these things. I didn't know these things existed, and I just wanted somebody to say I can stay with them. I was paranoid that my father would find me. But I ended up going back to my friend, who said that I could stay there. His girlfriend had left him. I didn't know him. I really didn't know him. He was African. He was Nigerian, actually. And he seemed like a nice person at work, so I just took it that he was a nice person. I went out with him. I'd never been out before in my life, to somebody's house around the corner, and I'd had a drink. I'd never drank alcohol before, and got drunk. Can't even remember it, but ended up having my daughter, and she changed my life. She broke that cycle of celebrating a girl. I felt I had changed that whole sequence of not wanting a child that's a girl, and I promised that I would give her everything that I never had. My relationship wasn't very good. I didn't understand that because I had been raised in a very hostile environment, so I didn't know about self-worth or self-respect. I just carried on trying to create a business, because that's one thing I saw my father doing, so that I could look after my daughter. The flat that we lived in, incidentally, was on top of the newsagents where where the people helped me, and I started to spend a lot of time in the newsagents just helping them, and I would take my little girl down, and they were really friendly. And then one day a man came and dressed really nicely, and he was talking about easy money and how he was making this money, and I thought, oh, I'm going to go and ask him if he can tell me what to do, because he was turning money away. And I thought, well, maybe we can work together. So he said, oh, no, he stood next to his lovely BMW and is wearing his nice shirt and trousers, and said, oh, no, I wouldn't be able to work with you. And I didn't take no for an answer. I walked down to the red telephone box and asked them for a mobile phone company, which was not so far away. There weren't many around, so I got his details and I wrote him a draft. I actually hand wrote a letter to him posted it saying that, look, I'll be a representative and you can pay me X amount and we can negotiate later on when I start selling more. Because I had this idea in my head that I could do it. And I did. And I started selling mobile phones from the flat. And people would come from the shop downstairs. I made myself a poster. My daughter would be in a little baby walker in another room. When someone came, I would put Tots TV or something on for her and TV program, and I would literally sell them this contract. And I was doing so well that I left the flat with my partner, and he wasn't working, so he was happy. We started a business in the small town that we were in. Then I asked the gentleman that was renting to me if I could buy. Then I bought another property. And in between all of this, while I'm doing really well in my career, I have another son. And life from the outside looks rosy, as it always does when you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But my father had tried to track me down. He dressed up in a disguise with my brothers, and they tried to abduct my daughter because they wanted to take her to India to kill her, because the shame people were finding out that I had out of marriage child. And because of that, they wanted to try to make it right. And the only way they knew to make it right was to abduct her and kill her. And you probably think surely they wouldn't do this, but they offered the landlord £5,000, and back then that was a lot of money. We're talking about 1993. It was a lot of money, but he took a liking to me and told me the truth and said, you probably need to be more careful. And when I did move, I felt suddenly invisible because they didn't know where I was, even though it was still in the same town. And they sort of left me alone. I had started this path for myself to create this business for my children, that I would be able to give them everything that I wanted to give them, including love, time, for them to never feel alone. And I was doing really well, but my partner was very volatile. He had issues of his own, which I understand. And he treated me really badly, which I don't normally talk about, because I always had this thing about speaking badly about other people when they're not there isn't gracious. But now I understand that you have to hold people accountable for their bad actions, otherwise they themselves won't change. And it's not a bad thing. I'm not bad mouthing, I'm just telling the truth. But during my 23 years with him, he set my pillow on fire as I was sleeping, and I woke up because the smell of my hair was on fire. He did it twice. And the second time my daughter put the fire out, she was 7 turning 8. He told us that he just wanted to end it all. And I believed him. But only now I understand that it was me he was trying to end, not himself, because he wasn't setting anybody on fire other than myself. After that, I got pregnant again for the 3rd time. Things were very difficult between us. The abuse was becoming very dangerous, I would describe it, where my head was held underwater. As I said, my pillow was set alight, and he had a habit of pushing me down the stairs. He pushed me down the stairs when I was 8 months pregnant with my 3rd child. This is something that's very difficult for me. I got to the hospital and I gave birth to a beautiful little boy called Tyler, but he died very soon after being born. And I was alone with this grief. And that's the first time I probably wanted not to be alive. I just didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't understand how God could allow these things to happen. And I actually lost my faith. Up until then, I had a faith that there was somebody out there looking out for me, somebody guiding me. And I found it very difficult to see that at that point. I did have another son who is my youngest son. And that helped me get back on track, I suppose, mentally. It was a struggle. It sometimes still is. But then things became very on a different level of violence at home. And my ex-partner, he became very aware that he was losing control within the family unit. My daughter had gone to university. My middle child I'd sent to boarding school because his father had tried to hit him and I wasn't allowing anybody to hit the children. But that meant I had to work 4 jobs. And my youngest son was alone because his brother had gone, his sister had gone. He was watching a lot of domestic violence, and you think that they don't know, but they hear everything and they notice everything. And he developed Crohn's disease, which is a horrific thing to have as a young boy. So we ended up in hospital and he ended up having operations. When we left the hospital, my former partner, my ex-partner, he sent a picture to my daughter, a photo, and underneath the photo it said, "I'm sorry." And she knew that something was wrong because she continuously said, "Mummy, I'm going to get a call one day and I don't want to get that call that you've died and it's done something. Please leave, please leave." But I didn't see it myself. I thought he was always threatening us. He wouldn't actually do anything so bad. I was still living as that 6-year-old child in fear. What he had done was he had turned the taps on in the kitchen, and when she woke me up by calling me, I'd gone to get myself a drink and noticed that he'd turned all the taps on and left the house. So it was literally an explosion waiting to happen, and both of us had passed out. My son told the school. Social services removed us, but because I had property in my name, I was a business owner, we became homeless. And that was another battle in itself because I had nobody to turn to, nobody for help. And one of the worst things about being homeless isn't food. It's not the hunger. I was used to a life of never eating, but I had this child that was ill, nowhere to go, and the cold, just not the cold from the weather, but the coldness from people it broke a spirit. And I had a very strong spirit, but it was really breaking me down. And at one point I remember literally sitting and looking down at this puddle of tears thinking, what are you going to do? Are you going to fight? Are you going to dance in these tears, or are you going to drown in them? And that's when I started to fight back. I was very fortunate that somebody offered us a place to stay in her home, and I said I will only stay a month. If I give myself a target, I know I have something to work towards. So I worked every job. My son was happier because he was undercover, he was clean, he was able to shower. He started to go back to school. Things started to fall into place. I ended up saving enough money in a month to go and rent a really nice 3-bedroom home, which is what I wanted. I wanted to try and retain those standards that we had had beforehand. But I forgot one thing in this busyness of doing everything and buying a bed and looking, what shall I get for this and what shall I get for the house? I need a curtain, I need this. I was nesting, but I forgot the most important thing, which was my son. I didn't ask him how he was. I spoke to my other 2 children because they needed me more. They seemed to be very worried about me, understandably, but the one that lived with me, I didn't stop and say, how are you? And unfortunately, he became very detached. And one day he said he was going to somewhere that he wasn't going to. He ended up in Miami trying to buy a gun. He'd borrowed money from somebody at school, and his idea was to be found dead in a hotel room. He'd romanticized this idea from maybe watching people that he was, admiring in films. He'd booked the hotel for one night. The day that he told me there was a note for me in a box is something that I will never forget. My whole being just literally went straight down to my toes, and for a few seconds I stopped everything. But I knew I had to fight because that's all I've ever done. And I managed to speak to his friends. We created a timeline. I managed to get hold of him, which was impossible, really. It was like a needle in a haystack. And we got him home, but I never got the same boy that I'd known before. I took him to lots of different psychiatrists, but they said that his something called adjustment disorder, when you go from one extreme to another, and you don't always feel that when you're going through the process, but when you get to the other side and you sit down and think, wow, has this happened to me, then you are in a bit of a state. He was due to go to the best universities to study finance, and he dropped out of school. And I didn't understand to start with, but then as time went on, I knew that all he needed was a bit of time and quiet and to be looked after. He needed some boundaries. He needed support. It's like when sometimes you've had a bad day at work and you come back and you say, I just need a moment. And you say to your family when they're all trying to ask you questions, just give me a minute. And that's what I did. But the minute lasted for 3 years. In those 3 years, I was mentally abused by him. I was physically sometimes abused by him. But I didn't give up, because that's my baby and I wasn't going to give up. And I've achieved a lot this year. I've done a TED talk. I've spoken on a stage, a live stage with people. But the biggest achievement I had this year was that my son reconnected with me. And very quickly before I end this, I met a really amazing person along my journey that's my best friend now. He managed to gain my trust, because you can imagine I don't trust many people, and he introduced me to cryptocurrency. And he said, look, I know you don't want to work full time because you're looking after your son, but let me do something for you and show you how you can pay your bills and your rent without actually leaving the house. And he loaned me £500. And with that £500, he taught me how to make enough money each week to pay my rent and my bills and not really have to worry again. And from there, he's been training me and building me up with that. But now I am able to reach out to people and help them to see that self-acceptance and that self-love that we all should hold for ourselves, because regardless of what we go through, and we all have our traumas, whatever, if I've lost my keys and you've lost your, I don't know, purse, we've still lost something. There's no comparison. It's what you do with that lesson that you learn. If you can go and help somebody else. The whole purpose of me writing my book was, I have 20 odd years of experience of knowing how not to run a business, 20 odd years of knowing how to deal with a family that are not easy to live with. And I love them all. I hold no malice towards anybody, because I know that people only do what they know. So I don't do that. And I ask for you to understand that honor killings are happening every day. And I can't stop the hands of time, but I can ask you to give me a hand in my spreading awareness campaign. If you see something, if you're a teacher and you know a girl hasn't returned because her parents have told you that she's now living in India, to maybe notify somebody that she's missing, or somebody at work that was recently married that now is no longer at work. Ask questions, or if you don't want to get involved, because I understand that can cause problems for you, at least make that little call, because that one little call could save somebody. There are so many cases that are reported, but there are so many more that are not reported. And if you check on Google what is the sentence for an honor killing, you will find that it's 3 to 4 years. It's not manslaughter. My father has just come out of prison because he abducted my sister that he had with somebody else, my half-sister, that I didn't know about. In 2015, the year that I became homeless, he abducted my sister and took her to India, and she's never been seen again, and she was 6 years old. So it's important that we see things and we do talk about them and we report them and we are kind to others, because there's a lot of things happening that shouldn't be happening. And my human trafficking awareness and advocacy is because my sister was left in a place where they allow the children to grow to a certain age and then sell their body organs, organ trafficking. And the children that aren't used for organ trafficking are sent to the Middle East as servants. So it's something very close to my heart. I would just ask all of you that you have a check-in every now and then with yourselves too, because regardless of what I've been through, I love myself so much, because I know that everything that's happened to me has happened to me for a reason. And now with this knowledge, I'm able to change lives or start a ripple of change. And hopefully with your help, we can together make that happen. Thank you so much for listening.
I can barely talk, Nina. Thank you so much. Thank you for baring your soul, for sharing your such intimate details. And I know you're doing it because you want to make sure that others realize what's going on out there. But as I said, from the time that I heard your story the first time, I knew it was one that I had to share with our audience. And I thank you so much for, I was going to say being brave, but it's more than being brave, really, and just sharing that story. I'm sure there are lots of questions. I've seen there's been a lot of people comments and Q&As, and I can't speak. I'm so sorry. I'm even losing my voice because I'm sitting here thinking, But listen, let's get straight into the chat. I thank you once again. I apologize for the craziness that happened in advance, but thank you all for bearing with us. I think in the end, we had about 52 people that had actually registered, but we managed to get just about 30 of you onto the platform. But as I said, don't worry, this will be recorded and it will be shared. I am going to get Susie to join us on stage. Susie, can you please turn on your camera? And Susie's not wearing her glasses, so that means Susie's been wiping her eyes. I know. Go ahead, Susie.
Feeling humbled and in total awe that you're still standing. You're so courageous. And I understand why you're doing what you're doing, to try and prevent all of that happening to someone else. I don't know how you found the strength. So my question, if you're up to it, is how on earth did you become the woman that you are? So poised and elegant and able from the start that you had?
I think, thank you so much, Susie, for your question, and thank you for bearing with me, because I know that you were in the other part to start with as well on the table. I wouldn't want to be anybody other than me. I love who I am, as I said, and I say that with conviction because I mean it. I'm not just saying it. All of those things that happened to me happened because I believe a higher source knew that I could deal with them. And it's with that lesson. Some people don't necessarily learn the lesson and it has to happen again and again. I believe that not just one thing, but continual bad things happen so that I would be able to open my arms, and they are very open to everybody, and give them the love and light that they might need, because I don't believe in helping somebody by physically picking them up and taking them out of a situation. I believe in giving them the belief within themselves. Whereas, as I said, as a child, I thought I was Rapunzel and somebody would go and save me, and there is no such thing as that. But now I have the ability to not understand how somebody feels, because we never will completely understand another person's feelings. It's very personal to them. But I am in a position to understand a little bit about how they may feel, and not just from my culture, on many different levels. Something within me kept going. And if you have time, I would ask everyone to watch my TED Talk, but I also gave a talk in Ireland last week, and one of the things I said in that talk was to keep going. You have to find your keep going. And something within me was telling me to keep going. Later on, it was my children. But before then, maybe it was a voice from even my former self going back and telling me that as a child, you need to go, you need to keep doing this, because when you're older, you can make a difference. And I don't necessarily know if I can completely change and do the things I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to get new laws put into place and get to the United Nations. But if I can't get there, what I'm hoping is at least to put a ripple of change and to re-educate the newer generation, for them just to stand back and think, actually, that's horrible what happened to her. Am I doing these things as well within, to have a little check-in on themselves, to evoke kindness, because kindness goes a huge way. It doesn't cost anything. Just that smile, when you came on, you smiled and I smiled. It's a reaction from you. It's an extension from you. And I just literally want everyone to feel loved. I really do.
How on earth? I'm sorry, I am incredulous at what you've survived. How did you know how to bring up a loving family?
Oh, I didn't, but then I knew what not to do. Parenting is one of the hardest things, and I say that all the time. But I'm actually in love with my children. They're the first. My daughter was the first time I'd felt love, real love. My dog, the puppy that we had, I felt she gave me a little bit of love and warmth, but children give unconditional love, and I feel very much sometimes I'm that child still trying to give love. But I'm proud of my children. I'm proud of the fact that they show their weaknesses, because, as I said in the talk I've recently given, it's in your weakest times you find your strengths.
So true.
And growing as a child, I thought I had to be strong. My father told me never to cry. I couldn't cry, so I'm almost doing the reverse now, discovering myself as I do go on this journey. But thank you for your compliment about my family. Thank you.
It's so wonderful meeting you, and I'm very grateful that you shared your story. It's something we should all understand, not understand, that's beyond me, but know about, so that we can spread that awareness. Thank you so much, Nina.
Thank you so much, Susie. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Sabina, do you want to put your camera on, and then you can ask your question? If anybody would like to come on stage and ask a question, please do just raise your hand. I'll try and get you on. Sabina,
yeah, sorry, my PC is really old. I don't know what's happened with the camera.
Okay, well, go for it with the camera. Go for it without the camera.
I'm actually, first of all, I'm actually quite speechless, so distressed actually. Can I just ask quickly about the PTSD? I don't know how you deal with it.
I don't think I ever had anything like that, because I didn't know any different, so I accepted things very quickly. And I also kind of trained my mind to let things go. When my father used to shout at me constantly, I used to sing the songs my friend had taught me. So I didn't hear a lot of it. And even with my former partner, when he was saying things like, you're too fat, nobody would want you, again, I used to zone out and think about what I had to do at work. So I almost feel I have an ability to let things go very quickly.
So you didn't get any therapy, any CBT?
I've never had any therapy. I did see a counsellor at one point when I became homeless, because I was allocated one, but I didn't feel she understood where I was coming from with things that were bothering me. I've only just admitted the rape to myself because I was in denial of it. Last February, somebody said something that triggered it. And I'm working through that slowly myself. But my main way of coping is to understand that I didn't create that situation. I never asked to be beaten. I never asked to be hurt. And all I can do is control my own feelings, never anybody else's. So I accept that my father did what he did because that's what he thought was right. I understand that the perpetrators have always done what they think is right for their own reasons, and I'm not in control of their feelings. So I'm at peace with myself. I'm at peace with what they've done. And I don't hold any grudges against anybody. I actually love them more because I feel they need more love.
Well, you've certainly taught me something. I need to learn a lot from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sister. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabina. Ingrid, would you like to put your camera on and...
Hello.
Hi, Ingrid.
Can you hear me? Nina, thank you. Thank you so much. My feelings when I was listening to you, I was feeling outraged at the indifference and the lack of awareness of the school, the medical practitioners, the social services, the police. How did nobody pick up what was happening to you?
Yeah.
And maybe other people like you. What was it? What was it? And in your campaign, where are you going to begin? Do you talk to schools? Do you talk to police? Do you talk to doctors? What happens? What happens when people are so blind? One of the things is that I'm an educational psychologist, and I would be devastated if any child in any of my schools, when I was working in local authority, had even the minimum of experience that you've had and that you accepted as normal, because obviously you understand it is far from normal. There's a thing about not wanting to interfere in other people's cultures from the host culture, that is something that is inexcusable. And I'd like your ideas about that.
Thank you so much. Thanks for picking up on a couple of things. The school should have noticed there was something wrong with me, because I didn't say that I actually tried to kill myself. I tried to commit suicide after the abortion. At the age of 15, I went from a very able student to a very withdrawn student, and nobody picked up on that. Even my French teacher was particularly fond of me. He didn't even pick up on it. And if he did, he didn't do anything about it. It was obvious there was something wrong in my home life because of the way I would turn up for school. You know, the way I was not looked after. There was a visible indicator there that help was needed, but it wasn't. I mean, I am 51, so it happened a long time ago. So maybe social services weren't up to where they are today, but I don't believe that myself. I know of cases now where girls are still living my life. And my daughter, who's 28, has a friend who is Korean. He was dating somebody who was Kurdish, and the parents have now stopped him doing what he's doing. He's a dentist. My daughter's a dentist. They drop him to work and they pick him up from work. He's not allowed to go to the gym. He's not allowed a mobile phone. He's nearly 30. Now, the point of me telling you this is that it's still happening. It's just we are taught within our cultures never to say anything. It's such a taboo for me to speak out. I've had death threats. I've had my door nearly smashed in. Somebody, you know, before my TED Talk, people tried to threaten me. I get numerous messages on my social media which are not necessarily pleasant, because it's such a bad thing that I'm doing in their eyes, that I'm speaking out and telling the truth. A part of the reason a lot of people get away with honor killings is because nobody will speak out. And even survivors now that have contacted me want me to know that they've survived, but they're in hiding. They're too scared to say anything. I should speak to the police. I have no faith in the police, I'll be honest with you, because the amount of times I turned up to ask for help, I didn't get it. With domestic violence, I had a recording of my partner telling them literally that he set my pillow on fire. But I got no help. I still didn't get any help.
Have you thought of contacting the major investigative journalists?
To be honest with you, I would, from today, if anybody has any suggestions, please send them to me, because I've only just started this train of thought, this whole campaign, if you want to call it that, this year. So as I might be able to teach somebody from something to do with business that I've know about, I'm sure there are so many amazing minds here that can guide me also, and I would welcome that. So yes, I will contact the police and the educational authorities. They are on my list to do. Thank you, Ingrid.
And the important journal, things like The Guardian, there's an excellent investigative journalist there. They have a superb tradition of campaigning.
Okay. Thank you so much.
People like Carol Corder, spelt Cadwallader, but it's pronounced Corder, who has exposed lots of injustices.
Oh, really? Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ingrid.
Thank you. Thanks, Ingrid.
My purpose is to spread awareness, and anybody that can help me do that, I'm so appreciative. Thank you.
Joel, can you put your mic
Yeah, I will in a moment. Can you hear me?
Can hear you. What about
Oh, good. I have a feeling you couldn't hear me.
Yeah, we had a few problems with your microphone recently.
Thank you, Dr. Yvonne, and thank you so much, Nina. It's like I took some notes, but I had some questions and some concerns, and listening to your story, it's so hard to actually keep your emotions in check, really. And I mean, working as a teacher, a youth worker, a social worker, working with people and being exposed to a whole bunch of stuff, which I won't go through, I'm still in awe of your resilience. And at 6 years old, thank you for allowing us to think of what we as listeners went through at that sort of age, and what was joy for you standing on this box and being able to cook. Awesome. But the one thing that you said about, I think it was either drown or dance in your own tears, that really got me. And I thought, you obviously decided you're going to dance. I mean, what was it that you suddenly thought, right, I'm going to lift myself up? You know, it's just incredible. What was it?
It was my son. I had a son with me that needed his mother to look after him. Okay. So primarily, I'm always a carer. I'm always that feeder. I'm always that person that looks after somebody else. And that part of me wasn't giving up. I wasn't giving up on him. He'd been through a lot. He'd been dropped by his Premier League football team, and his father had tried to kill him, and then his brother had left to go to boarding school, and his sister had, gone to university, and I was working 4 jobs to afford that private schooling. It wasn't something that I had. I was the only person working, so he'd endured a lot, and I knew that I wanted better for him. I wanted to be the best mum I could be for him.
Right. Just following on from just quickly from what Ingrid was talking about, the main culture, as it were, not wanting to encroach in the so-called minority culture, which I think is ridiculous. We're sort of people, and we should be engaging, and we're part of a much wider and bigger sort of family. What do you think? You've suggested that we could make suggestions of advice and where we can sort of go. So presumably we can contact you through Wintrade Global.
Yeah, I mean, my website's actually, I've got 2. One's called myname.com, ninaalk.com. I'm happy for anybody to send me an email. I encourage everyone to send me an email, because I would love for you all to connect with me if you've got suggestions. And I will have also something that I'll be able to provide you with. I'm doing like a resilience sort of tips if you want, and I can send them to you on a PDF. Also, my book, I will be giving some of my books away. So if you do send me an email, some of you will get my book as well signed and sent to you. But if anybody has any suggestions or networking contacts, I would welcome them with open arms.
Nina, do you know Sharanjit Shah?
I don't.
Shah? Oh, okay. All right. In My Own Name, she wrote a book about arranged marriages many years ago and honor killings way back in 1990. Anyway, I'll write to you.
Okay, thank you. So my email
Thank
is actually just nina@ninaalt.com.
We'll share it. We'll share
Thank
it
you.
after.
Thanks,
We'll
Yvonne.
share it.
Great.
I'm going to show the next Damaris or Demarius Zampini. Because you're on a mobile phone, we can't put you on the stage, but I'm going to put your question on stage. There you go. That's a question from Damaris. What do we do? Because we all have a role to play to ensure this never happens.
Yeah.
Stage, but I don't think you can. No, you can't come on stage because you're on a mobile. Okay, so she's there. Did you change?
I did. Sorry, I'm actually feeling a little bit under the weather, so I look really horrible. But in any case, I was with my son, and I was listening in from the phone. That's why I switched back down. So thank you for sharing your courageous story.
You're in Canada.
I am actually in Portugal, but I'm Canadian Portuguese. I go back and forth. But in Canada, I've actually done a lot in our local communities and through my Women Energy network that I'm one of the founders of. We did a lot of community work. And the interesting part is, from a corporate level even, there is no borders when it comes to this kind of stuff, right? Whether you're a child that is, happens to be born in all kinds of demographics that's happening. And that was a really shocking eye-opener for me throughout the years and doing some of this volunteer work to help. But I think that we need to remove the taboos of discussion and being able to identify this. So I think we all have something to take away from this in honor of you, in honor of everybody who has been a victim. And, most little girls at one point have been a victim, even from a little perspective to a big perspective. Obviously, we don't want these horrific stories to ever happen again. But I think that we all need to do something about it, whatever it is. Like, oftentimes I'll share a random stat even on my personal Facebook. And the funny part is people kind of just ignore it, right? And in a way, it really bothers me because people would rather get into a discussion over something that's irrelevant or that is just, political or something that's, to me, a bunch of BS. But these cases are happening every day. I was actually born in Latin America where there's a lot of this machismo that happens, all the whole, rape and so on. And so I just think that it's important to give tidbits of action, things that we can do, things that are not hard for people to maybe necessarily engage into a full conversation about it, but maybe it's a stat, maybe it's a number, right? Like every minute in the world that we've been on here in this call, every 1 minute, one child has been abducted, one child has been raped. We have to stop that. And yes, maybe we don't see it in front of our eyes, but I think that just inviting everybody to do something, even something so little, like I'm definitely, going to email you, try to find those ways to collaborate, but telling the story is very powerful, but I think we just all need to take away something, whatever that something is. I mean, I talk to my kids all the time. I even tell them to look after their friends. I mean, of course, it's not their job and they don't need to be tasked on that, but to open the conversation and say that it's not okay. Like if somebody exposed themselves to you and you're a child, you may just be afraid and think that maybe it's my fault, right? And it's not. Just even saying something weird happened today, and opening that little door a little bit can just create so much dynamic for people to jump in. And when we see those tiny little door openings, I think we all have the duty to open it more and to, maybe not invasively, and maybe we don't have the tact to get into somebody's privacy, but maybe we call a counselor into that space or call somebody who can appropriately address the situation. But I guess, my question really was, what do we do next, right? Like, what can we all take away that's enough and palatable for us to push this open much bigger than it is today? And thank you again for sharing.
No, thank you. Firstly, you look beautiful, and no negative, no negative words allowed when I'm around. Nobody's allowed to do that.
Yes.
I do believe in awareness. I believe awareness because I want to normalize talking about rape. I want to normalize talking about abuse. I want to normalize for Asians, Africans, and Middle Eastern women, especially, to talk about the treatment they're having. If we normalize it, the perpetrators are a little bit more afraid of being outed. At the minute, nobody talks about it, so it's almost underground. That's my main thing that I would say, that we just need to talk. And I totally agree with you. When I put on pictures of child brides in India or wherever they are in Africa, people ignore it. If I put a picture of my hair, people probably like it a lot more, and that frustrates me. But you're uncomfortable. It's something that's very uncomfortable. People know me for talking about honor killings, and they would avoid me. There's different sides to us, like different sides that go to the bank manager, different sides talk to our family. So, in a whole, as a person, I am receiving and I am very accommodating, but my passion is to spread awareness because it happened to me. And there are thousands of other Ninas, like you said, out there that are not sure what to do with themselves, and they're accepting it. And I know the feeling. Before I had my arranged marriage, my stomach was in knots. I was 15 and I was counting down from 15 to 17 to get married. And it was horrible. It's that whole, what's going to happen? Am I going to have to give in to this? And society has created the shame that we're trying to put aside with honor killings. Even in Western society, there's that shame that, oh, she was, abused as a child. Oh God, But we shouldn't be that. We should be actually a little bit more empathetic, understanding, and maybe even asking the question, well, what is it I can do for you? How can I help you? As opposed to, that's so sad. It is sad. It's a reality. It's happened. I can't go back. I'm going forward and I want to make a change. So the question that we can all ask one another is, what can I do? How can I help? Like the gentleman that came on earlier was saying, well, I'm going to contact you. I've got an email. And the lady that came on before was, you should maybe contact somebody in the press. And I'm open to this because I'm learning myself. I know that it's difficult, but it's something that definitely needs a change, like you said. And I respect your passion as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And even looking at this demographic, just one quick comment. I was just looking at, the participants here. Majority of us are women, right? And actually, it brings me back to my Latin American roots. It's funny part is, it's mostly moms that are willing to protect. And listen, I don't care. I just would like to see more men at the table discussing these topics because, I even here in Europe, I've had where, my kid went bike riding with his buddies and he's only 8, right? And so I'm chasing him and I couldn't see him because he knows where to go. It's always, in the same area. And he went over to the other side of a building. I lost it. I went all Latin crazy and I'm screaming for my son, right? And the funny part is my husband goes, well, what? Don't worry, he's not going to go far, right? But then I sit there and I go, abductions happen every moment. And I didn't get angry at him, but I kind of went like, it's funny that, even in this setting, it's mostly women. We need to bring more men at the table. And I started talking, because I also think it's an education opportunity, because I started talking to him about those numbers, right? And I talk about it very openly. And I think we just all need to do that in the home and in the school and so on, because it can happen like this. And your child's gone, and your child's gone forever, right? Maybe. And okay, he's like, oh, come on, don't exaggerate. I'm not exaggerating. It can happen, and it does happen. And so I think that we just need to open that, to your point, to make the people aware.
I agree. And one of the things I do say, and this sounds harsh, but I'm not going to apologize for it, is I say it's happening every day. It's happening every second of every hour. It's just not happening to you.
Yes. Right. Awesome. I like that. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to share that. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. And thanks for that great comment, Damaris. Thank you. Sydney, did you want to come on and say something before I get on to Veronica and Alvinda?
Well, I was actually going to wait until the end and let them make their comments first.
Brilliant. Veronica, you're up next.
Hi, Nina. Thank you so much for that talk.
Sorry,
I
can
really,
you come on
I'm
camera,
really lost.
Veronica?
I'm really Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you come on camera or not?
Oh, am I not on camera? Oh, sorry. No. Sorry.
There you go. Oh,
Oh, I don't know. Wait a minute.
there you go.
Okay. Yes, thank you so much for that. I really don't know what to say, except that, yes, I'd like to help. If there's anything I can do, I really like to help. And I will take a note of your email address so that we can talk on the email. But one of the things, and I think you have said it, one of the things that came to me whilst you were talking is the fact that, do you feel secure? How do you secure yourself? How do you protect yourself? Because this stuff is something that a lot of people will not want to come out. How do you protect yourself from all of this?
Hi, Veronica. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm glad you put your camera on because you had this beaming smile. Nice. I love smiles. I ran away from a marriage, my arranged marriage, to my parents, and then I ran away from my parents to my ex-partner. Then I ran away from my ex-partner to get to safety, and then I became homeless. Then I ran away from that whole life that I was living to move to South London. I stopped running. I'm too old to run. I no longer fear itself. I don't allow that being scared to control me anymore. I still get scared watching a scary movie because I'm not keen on them. But no person I will ever give that control to, because I control my own emotions. And that might be naive. That might be putting myself in danger. I am careful, because I have children to consider, but I no longer will hunch forward and try to be invisible the way I used to be. In the speech I said in Ireland, I said that now I stand tall because I do. So I've changed, I've grown, I'm here for a reason, and I'm definitely going to do my best to make that happen.
That's fantastic, because fear, you have every reason to be fearful, but overcoming that kind of fear is huge, because you could end up looking behind you all the time, and that's no way to live, really. So I'm so glad that you have seen that for what it is and made a decision that you're not going to let it control your life. So you're well done, and all the other brave things that you have done, and what you've gone through. And it is true, it's happening every day around us. And so for women in your position, and women in Africa and the Middle East, it's a thing, but it's also happening in the West. It's happening wherever you go. It's happening to women and to girls all the time. So talking about it and putting it in the open, so that people are not afraid to talk. And I think that's a lot of the problem. It's the same in the school. I think something really should be brought to the school, so that they want to get involved. And that's the thing. I know that teachers are there to teach, and it's not their responsibility, but there should be a way of contacting the services, and telling them about, people that they're concerned about. Some teachers won't do it. Very few teachers will do it.
No,
but,
I think safeguarding is the word they use, safeguarding. But and then they say that you can ring a number. But I know when I was ringing Women's Aid, they were ringing me back while my partner sat next to me.
Yes.
And it doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't. And safeguarding people, it's still people's choice about what they do and how they get involved. So yes, I'm quite aware with safeguarding, having been a safeguarding officer myself. But yes, it's people making the choice of whether they're going to report something or not, or are they going to ignore it. So it's still a choice that people have, but it really shouldn't be like that. And I think as a society, we need to change the narrative, around people who are being abused in all sorts of ways. So thank you for really bringing that out into the open and get everyone involved. And I think that's a great thing. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Veronica, another one of our stalwart members. So thank you for being here today. And thank you for bearing with me and my lack of digital skills, but we got there in the end, didn't we? And wasn't it
Yes,
worth
we did.
it? Come on, now
It
you can
was.
show me some emoji love if you thought it was worth it. It was definitely, there you go. There you go. Thank you. Thanks, Veronica. Okay, Avinda, if you'd like to, she's already on. Okay, let's get you,
Thank you, Yvonne.
into the stage. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, Nina. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and your story today. I'm lost for words. I'm just I'm so grateful for your courage and your voice, for standing up and having a voice to share your experiences and your journey. Coming from an Indian background myself, I sometimes get really annoyed and shocked at the journey that people go through in the community, in society. And listening to your story, I can see there's been so many failures in the system, in the legal system, but most of all, the very people that you're supposed to support you and encourage you, your primary family, were the first instigators of your experiences. And for me, coming from an Indian upbringing as well, that's kind of like an alien concept to me. I mean, I'm one of 4 girls, and as you can imagine, people in Indian society can be sometimes quite cruel when it comes to girls, and I totally understand that. But my parents and my grandparents were always there supporting us as girls, and they never, discouraged us. But so listening to your story, that your own mom, your own dad, and then your siblings, just didn't even acknowledge your presence, and didn't give you that chance from day one. It just makes me see just how much there's a lot of pain in the culture. There's a lot of mental illness in the culture that needs to be addressed. There's just, I mean, when you were talking about your own children and your own journey as a mother, there was a lot of natural love. But when you were talking about your own relationship with your own mother, that there was not that connection at all. And I'm just wondering and thinking, what went wrong? There was obviously something drastically wrong in your home upbringing, household, that was just not seen either in the system, either in your father's workplace or your mother's workplace, whatever. Or within the wider Indian community, there was a certain acceptance of this kind of treatment of you. And I'm wondering why is this accepted, and what can be done to change it? There's obviously a lot of cross-cultural issues that need to be addressed in the wider society as well as within the community. And it's good that you're highlighting it, because things do need to be addressed, and as you say, the conversation needs to be normalized. And I would love to help and support you with that, because every human counts. Every person has a voice, and I'm so amazed that you have found such inner strength and courage, despite not having that loving, start in life that a lot of us take for granted. And I'm amazed that you found the love for your own children, even though you didn't experience that as a young adult yourself, as a young person yourself. So it goes to show there's something in human nature that we find courage from somewhere, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm lost for words, really.
I'm actually very humbled that you've come up, because I don't get a lot of support from Indian people, I'll be honest. So people from my own culture tend to turn a blind eye and stigmatize me or label me to be something I'm actually not. And it doesn't bother me, because I know what I am myself. I'm actually really happy that you were brought up with love, especially one of, you said 3 girls, was it?
4. One of
4 girls, yeah, because that would be not normal in the community and family that I was brought up in. And I'm not saying that I'm not beating my culture up, I'm not beating my ethnicity up, and I want to make a point of that. This has nothing to do with religion. These are individuals from a sect of a culture that choose to hold on to this belief. I don't need to understand it. If we try to understand it, we'll never get the answers because we're not those people. What we need to understand is that it is wrong, and we need to acknowledge it is wrong. We also have to acknowledge that they don't know any different. And I keep repeating this, that my father was raised and he was born in India, the North India and the Punjab. Maybe that's where yours were from. I'm not sure. I'm guessing so. But that's what he knew. That's what his parents instilled in him. And my mother was very similar. So I'm not going to question her train of thought because I'm not her. She wasn't open to change. You know, I actually love the fact that I've taken parts of my Indian ethnicity. I'm a British-born girl here. So I've taken parts of that culture. My partner was Nigerian for 23 years. I've taken parts of my African culture because it's part of me. And I've blended it all together to create this Nina culture that I like. And I'll live by that. And I respect every culture for who they are. But when there's an injustice, regardless of who you are or where you're from, there's an injustice. And that's the bit I'm trying to highlight. But I'm definitely not trying to beat up the fact that Indians are doing it, or Chinese people, or Koreans, or Kurdish. It's not that. It's just an injustice. I believe that every human deserves the fundamental rights that their counterparts are having.
I agree there wholeheartedly. Absolutely.
Thank you, Avinda. I can see that has, and I've got to say, Nina, that you have actually achieved the objective of a Wintrade global talk. You've left them all speechless. So, Avinda, thank you so much. I'm going to let Sydney jump in and probably do the closing, because I think we have kept you about 2 hours. And it really, well, you know, the conversation was there. People wanted to talk. People wanted to hear more. So I apologize that it took so long, but I can't apologize that, you know, you were so engaging, because you were. And thank you so much. Sydney, would you like to chime in just before I let Nina go? Because
absolutely. Well, as the conversations have been so long, I'm going to keep it very short and sweet. I'm going to start with the least important and work my way up. So the first thing is, Nina, pot calling the kettle black. Before we all got on screen, you said to me, "Oh, you look so young for your age." You look about 30 years younger than your age. So that's the most irrelevant point, but I had to say it. Secondly, during your talk, you said so many points in your journey, you were just looking for love. All you wanted was to be loved. I can officially tell you that at least everybody on this call today has nothing but respect and admiration and complete and total love for you. You are such a bearer, a bringer of light, you know, whether it be light on our ignorance or, you know, light on bringing light to such a, which basically a troubling, dark topic. We cannot say enough. You are completely loved. And, you know, we've had a couple of hours with you. I can't imagine how other people in your life feel about you who know you now. So thank you so, so much. The third thing is we would really love to not just sit here and listen to you and then go away and feel moved. I mean, you know, you've got a few tears now. I've run out of tissues during your talk. But we don't want to just listen, you know, feel it in our hearts, feel inspired, and then walk away and know what we should do, but get too busy to actually do it. So, of course, you will get a complimentary Wintrade Global membership. And as soon as that's set up, we will be opening up a forum where you are the administrator. So you can broadcast messages about what you're doing, and we can make sure that anybody who puts messages or information for you, perhaps they have a contact for you, they can put that in that forum, and that will come straight through to you. Thank you.
I think it would also be great if you could, Sid, if you can talk Nina through putting her website, her business,
her marketplace, all of it.
So
you'll get an online shop, and perhaps we'll speak to our web designer to see if there's some way we can make that, turn that into donations for a project that you could set up, where we can actually get the information out there and provide a space where perhaps, I think Veronica's in education. Who else is that professor at that university? Who is that? It's Cecile, isn't it, Yvonne?
Which, I don't know.
Cecile, I've forgotten her last name, but she's a professor at university in London.
Yes.
She would love for you to come and speak to her students as well. We'll have that conversation next week. We'll meet up, get your profile set up, your forum set up, and just brainstorm and see, who we can put you in contact with.
Now I try not to cry now.
We can all cry, I think, now. It's okay.
Thanks so much. Okay. I really appreciate that. Any help? I do feel often I'm on my own trying to fight this battle, and I say that in my TED talk. I would love for everyone to watch my TED talk and support me and share it.
I'll put the link in the chat box.
I started an organisation with my daughter called endhonourkillings.org. And with that, I hope to be able to, I have been using it actually, whatever I do, and I have helped a few people already escape a situation, and just give them somewhere to live for a couple of days, just a hotel, and then get them in touch with the council to get them moved to a different place, because they were so scared to do it straight away. And I know what it's like on the day that we became homeless. I know there was nobody there, and just have somebody with a cup of tea just to listen to you. I have big plans of having almost like Ubers that are safe cars that take girls away, an app maybe to help them. I've got a lot of things in my mind that will hopefully all come together at some point. But I feel really touched that you've gifted me such a huge thing, and I'm just really touched. Thank you.
Well, I think actually you're the one that's gifted us the opportunity to, instead of just know it's wrong, to actually be able to do something, even if that's just a small something, to be part of a positive change to the situation. Wouldn't you agree, Yvonne?
Absolutely. And I think I can speak for, if not everybody online, most people online who would love to support you in some way. And Sydney and I mean, I'm saying this out loud now, and maybe I shouldn't be, but we have been talking about looking at various charities to support through Wintrade Global. And I think we'll put it out to the membership and get people to, to vote. And I'd be very surprised if yours wasn't one of them, at least one of them, that we would be supporting. And also one of the things that you talked about, that's been a hot topic for us over the past couple of weeks, is the whole thing about your, I want to say Bitcoin. It's not Bitcoin. What is it?
Cryptocurrency and blockchain.
Cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
And
cryptocurrency.
that is a way that, that's helped Nina to get through it all. So I know some people have reservations, and some people, think it's all a bit dodgy and all sorts of things. And I'm sure that if you join up with the wrong ones, it could be. But there are others that are very, very safe. And again, maybe that's something that we can share of Nina's if you want to find out more about it.
And also perhaps put Nina in contact with Maggie Webber.
And I think Klaus is online as well.
Klaus, Violet's, Lavinia Osborne.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
A lot of people in our tribe that you know we can try and connect you with. Okay, well, we've had Nina on for so long. I'm starting to feel a bit guilty because, I mean, literally, we could just keep you on for the next couple of weeks. You've got so much wisdom and you're so eye-opening. But I fear that that would be, you know, not quite fair. So, Yvonne, do you think we should possibly wrap up now?
We can wrap up. Klaus has just said that he thinks he can help even from Germany. There you go.
Oh,
so
excellent.
You've got... Oh, gosh, there's other people. Edith, I don't know if Edith, do you have energy for any more? It's been quite draining, so we don't...
I think perhaps what we can do is we can go through the chat. Sorry?
Saying I'm happy. I've, you know, allocated 3 hours to this, so I'm happy to stay for a little while.
All right, well, let's just, if Edith is still there, let's do a very quick, I don't want to leave anybody out because they were good enough to bear with us. So we all get to plant seeds of love and courage. Did you want to say, no, is she there? I don't know if she's still there. I think she just made a comment, but yeah, she's there. So let's have a quick comment from Edith, and then I think we'll close up. I want to give everybody the opportunity to say something. Thank you, Edith.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for this talk. I've been also crying all along because I just feel you.
Oh.
And I hear you, and I can, yeah, I'm speechless as well. But what I wanted to say is that I could not even imagine what you have gone through, and you know, the courage that you are showing us and leading by is just amazing. I have community of women all over the world, and I am a new publisher of a magazine called Courage Magazine Global, and I would love you to have some kind of story. I mean, you have amazing story, but I would love you to spread your words in the magazine, and it's going to be distributed to 1.5 million of people. So that would a little bit give you a little bit of an exposure. And I'm a new magazine publisher, so we could keep your story for, you know, forever there. So because it's just an amazing thing that you are doing. So thank you so much for this. And yeah, we can only compare what we went through. I've never went. I had amazing childhood, amazing marriage. I have 3 children, and I am pouring love into them. They're not necessarily pouring the love back, but I do appreciate you so much, and you made us realize how some of us are lucky in life, and not to feel that. I feel sometimes that I'm not deserving what I have, and I have created a loving family, but I don't understand the feeling of not being enough or not feeling, because you didn't have any of that, and you still feel that, you know, you still are loving and courageous. So thank you so much.
Thank you so
much. If I was close to Edith, I'd give you a big hug. I'm actually from Leicester. All of this happened in Leicester, which is 40 minutes from you. It's not far.
No.
So that's where I was. Yeah, that's where I was born, and that's where it happened. And I just want to say that when you do go through certain things, you start to learn that every moment is to be celebrated. You know, I did a talk that I'd love for you all to see my talk. I'm sure you'll find it, or we'll try and find the link for it. But I say that I was searching for that external validation, that external love, but it was all here. And it's okay not to feel enough. It's okay, because we all have bad days and good days. But you are enough because you've raised 3 wonderful children as well. And it's not easy being a mum. It's really hard. It really is. But you're doing it. And I love you for that. So thank you for giving them that love.
Thank you for everything. And you know, we all are here on this earth to serve a purpose. And you know, I've moved continents. I was born in Poland, lived in America, and 16 years ago we moved to Nottingham. And because we've changed so many different locations, I was able to, or I got to develop that kind of new habits and new adjustment to new cultures, new, you know, not necessarily new languages, because we speak English, but still the adjustment for every state of our lives. We get to develop every single time. And you said you are always learning. You're always going to be on that journey of learning. And I love you for that, because that's how I feel. So,
all right, Edith, we have one more. We have one more. Sydney's going to slap my wrist. You know, Sydney's really the boss here. So I'm going to just have one more, because I think this is a really interesting and relevant, but it is our last. So Effie would love to have Nina speak to a Nigerian audience. Honor killings are also taking place in Nigeria, just from other variations.
I know. I would love that. I feel I'm more Nigerian than Indian because I had a longer relationship in that culture.
I don't know if Effie is still with us.
Okay. I would love that.
So actually, if I may, Yvonne, sorry to interrupt. If I may, and if with everybody's permission, I will give Nina your emails after this. If there's anybody who is not happy with that, please say so now in the chat box. And that way, Nina will be able to reach out and just send people information about her PDF and so on, and then also invite you all to her forum on the Wintrade Global platform.
Perfect.
Okay, there's no no's.
I was just going to add as well that Nigeria, the age for marriage, the consented age, the legal age is 12 for a girl.
Cool.
I'm sorry. Look, sorry, Sydney. Effie's just turned up. So last one, really.
She's saying that now, Nina.
It's like, I'm cool. I'm okay.
Well, I made her suffer.
Get your sleeping bag out, Nina.
Effie.
Effie, can you put your camera on?
Can Effie hear us?
Yes, she can.
Can you hear us, Effie? Oh, there's some connection problems, I think.
Oh, she is calling. She is in Lagos, I think. Maybe. Okay, so Effie, what we will do, we will make sure that we connect you and Nina. So I'm really sorry you're not able to come on stage. That would have been a really interesting conversation, but we do have to now let Nina go. I've got to say that I think I overextended my welcome because, oh, she's back. What's going on? Effie, can you hear us? No.
Okay, well, we're not letting Nina go. We're just letting her go today because she's now officially part of the Wintrade Global Tribe. You know that, right? It's now official. Yeah. Having said that, we want you to go, relax, have your cup of tea, and just congratulate yourself because you've literally just completely inspired, a group of women from all over the world. And I will definitely be connecting you.
And men.
And men, I apologize. And men. So, you know, make sure you go and give yourself a little pat on the back for that, at least this afternoon. And I'm sure we will make sure that that impact goes even further by making sure this recording's on the website, setting up that forum for you, forwarding the email addresses from the participants today so you can give them more information, and generally celebrating your fabulousness, Nina.
Yeah. And we will also be making sure that the recording goes out on LinkedIn, on Facebook. I'm not sure if, sorry.
Make sure it goes out live.
Yeah. Well, no, record it on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
And maybe you can tell us how to do it on Instagram, because you're the Instagram girl. So thank you. Thanks again very much. And just to close, my very last closing, Sydney, you usually talk to people who are not members and tell them what we have to offer them, but we can, I think we are we still doing a free 2-week membership? I can't remember.
No, but I will make sure that everybody who was on this call today gets a bit of information about exactly what we do and who we are and where they can find out more about us.
Okay. And we will probably take you up on your offer, Nina, to invite your friend to come and tell us a bit more about cryptocurrency at some point. But thank you. I know Sydney wants to chuck me off. She wants to mute.
No, I want to clap for Nina. I just want to,
But thank you all very much. Everybody who was patient with us, we got there in the end. And we have to make sure that Dilla's online the next time. But thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Nina, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.